Hello students. So in the previous lecture we have studied about what are receivables and how to manage the receivables, means the receivables management. So we come to know that there should be a trade-off maintained between the cost of receivables and the benefits of receivables. So how we can maintain a trade-off between the cost as well as the benefits of the receivables? We can do it by adopting a systematic approach and considering these following aspects. Now, what are these following aspects? The credit policy, the credit evaluation, and the credit control. Now, let's take it one by one. First, the credit policy. We know that a firm makes significant decisions by extending the credit to its customers, and it requires suitable and effective credit policy to control the level of the total investment in the receivables. So, a basic decision which has to be made regarding the receivables is to decide how much credit needs to be extended to a customer and on what terms. So, this is known as credit policy. So, you can define the credit policy as the set of parameters or the principles which govern the extension of the credit to your customers. So it requires the determination of the credit standards, credit terms. Credit standards means the conditions that the customer must meet before being the credit granted, and the credit terms means the terms and conditions on which credit is extended to the customers. So first let's talk about the credit standards. Credit standards, you can define it as like when a firm sells on credit, it takes a risk about the paying capacity of the customers. So therefore, to be on the safer side, it must set the credit standards which should be applied in selecting the customers for the credit sales. So there can be certain points which can be considered while setting up the credit standards for a firm, like effect of a particular standard on the sales volume, effect of a particular standard on the total debts of the firm, effect of a particular standard on the total collection cost. So by considering all these points, you can set the credit standards for your customer. Now second is the credit terms. For credit terms, we refer to the set of stipulations under which the credit is extended to the customers. So while the custom of the market frequently dictate the nature of the credit terms and conditions offered by the firm can design its own credit terms as a dynamic instrument in its overall sales efforts. So credit terms can also be related to two things. One is the credit period, the another is the discount terms. Credit period is one of the important aspect of the credit policy, which refers to length of the time over which customers are allowed to delay the payment. So this credit period generally varies from 3 days to 60 days. Now, talking about the discount terms, discount is generally given to induce them to prompt the payments. So if it offers a discount, it must also determine the discount percentage as well and the discount period. If the firm is relatively small, it will probably follow the lead of the other firms in the industry in establishing these terms. Now, let's talk about the components of the credit policy. There are certain components of the credit policy which should be kept in mind by the firm. One is the terms of sale, the another is the credit analysis. Terms of sales means how the firm proposes to sell its goods and services, either on cash or on credit. Second component is credit analysis. Credit analysis means distinguishing between the customers who will pay and the customers who will not pay. And the third component of the credit policy can be the collection policy. Collection policy means identifying the potential problem of collecting the cash from your customers. So in establishing a collection policy, it means what we are doing in this step, we are developing a credit policy finally to decide on the collection policy. So the content can range from doing nothing if a customer is paying late, to sending a polite letter of inquiry, to charging interest on payments extending beyond a specified period, to threatening legal action at the first late payment. Now, there can be certain effects of the credit policy. That is, in evaluating the credit policy, there can be the 5 basic factors which needs to be considered: revenue effects, cost effects, and the probability of non-payment. Revenue effects can be like, if the firm grants the credit, then there will be a delay in the revenue collections, as some of the customers, they might take the advantage of the credit offered and they are paying at a later date. So the firm has to arrange certain funds, but simultaneously they have to charge a higher price if it grants credit, and it may be able to increase the quantity sold. So in this case, the total revenues may increase. About the cost effects, although we know that the firm has to experience the delayed revenues if it grants the credit, but it will still gain the cost of sales immediately. Whether the firm sells for cash or on credit, it will have to acquire or produce the merchandise, means has to pay for it. The other cost effects can be like, when the firm grants the credit, it has to arrange the finance or the funds which are resulting from the receivables. So as a result, the firm's cost of short term borrowing is one of the factor in the decision to grant the credit. The probability of non payment: if the firm grants the credit, some percentage of the credit buyers will not pay. So this can't happen, of course, if the firm sells for the cash. It only happens in terms of the credit situations. Now let's talk about the credit evaluation. First, we talked about the credit policy, important aspect of the receivable management. Second important aspect of the receivable management is credit evaluation. We can say that the receivables are generally considered a relatively low risk asset. The basic risk is in the receivables is due to the possibility that the firm will not be able to collect all that is outstanding to it by your customers. So at the time of extending the credit to the customers, the firm must know the credit worthiness of the customer. Credit worthiness of the customer means whether a particular customer be extended any credit or not, and if yes, how much and on what conditions. So you can say that credit evaluation involves determination of the type of the customers who are going to qualify for the trade credit. Assessment of the credit worthiness of a customer is one of the subject matter, and it lot depends upon the experience and judgment of the person taking the decision. So there are 3 basic factors of the credit worthiness of a customer. First, the character. Character means the willingness and the practice of the customer to honor his obligations by paying as agreed, means by paying the amount which has been outstanding to him in a specified time duration, he is paying that amount. Secondly, the capacity. Capacity means the financial ability of the customer to pay as agreed. And third, the collateral. Collateral means the security which is offered by the customer against the credit. So we can say that evaluation of the credit worthiness of a customer is a 2-step procedure. First, collection of the information, and second, analysis of the information. So let us discuss this in detail about the collection and the analysis of the information. How the collection of information can be possible from your customers. In order to make the better decisions, we know that the firm has to collect one or the other information from various sources on the prospective credit customers. So there are certain sources of information which can provide much sufficient data or information about the credit worthiness of a customer. They can be bank reference, credit agency report, published information, or credit scoring. Bank reference means though the banks have to be reluctant to give the financial information to its customers, but sometimes it has to represent its financial position to a customer. The customer may also be required to ask his bank to provide the necessary or the required information in this respect. Second, the credit agency report. There are certain credit rating agencies which are providing the independent information on the creditworthiness of the different parties, and these agencies generally they are gathering the information on the credit history of businessmen, and they are selling it to the firms which want to extend the credit. Particularly in India, however, the credit agency system is not so much popular, and there is a much need to develop such a network which can provide reliable information. Third is published information. Published information means the published financial statements of the customers for few preceding years. This can also be taken as a source of the information, as it contains a lot of details about their operational efficiency. So, various ratios can be calculated on the basis of these financial statements, because they can throw an easy light on the liquidity, profitability, and the debt service capacity of a customer. We can well come to know about the credit worthiness of the customer from here. Now, another collection source can be the credit scoring. Credit scoring means a kind of numerical evaluation of your new customers who receive a score based on his answers to a simple set of questions. A scoring is given to your customers on the basis of which you are going to evaluate your customer, and this score is then evaluated according to the predetermined standards. So the major benefit of this credit scoring is that it is relatively inexpensive and less time consuming. So we can say that information collection is often costly, and therefore the firms have to maintain the trade off between the benefits and the cost of receivables, and it should also gather only as much as information as it is required and necessary to find out the credit worthiness of the customer with a reasonable degree of accuracy. Now, talking about the analysis of the information, we know that collection of information in respect of any customer is not going to serve any purpose in itself. Means just by collecting the information, it is not an end step. So once all the available credit information about a potential customer has been gathered, it needs to be analyzed to reach a consensus whether the credit worthiness of a customer has to be whether the credit worthiness of a customer is okay or not okay. So the five well-known C's of credit which has to be taken into consideration to evaluate your customer: character, capital, capacity, collateral, and the conditions. This can easily provide a framework for the evaluation of your customer, and these characteristics generally tell you about the credit worthiness or the default risk of your customer. So step by step analysis of the information should be made, and assessment also should be made at various points to ascertain for the further analysis. Now let's talk about the credit control. Credit control means the control of receivables. So once the credit has been extended to a customer as per the defined credit policy, the next important step here is the management of the receivables. Management of the receivables means the control of the receivables. So merely a setting of the standards and framing a credit policy is not much more sufficient, but its implementation is rather required to control the receivables. So in this reference, the efforts needs to be directed as by considering the following the collection procedure, monitoring of receivables, lines of credit, and accounting ratios. So, first is the collection procedure. Collection procedure means once a firm has decided to extend the credit to the customers on the defined credit policies. So it needs to develop a policy for dealing with delinquent or slow paying customers. The overall collection procedure of the firm should neither be too lenient nor it should be too strict, because a strict collection policy can affect the goodwill of the firm and growth of sales. And if a firm has a lenient credit policy, the customer with a natural tendency towards slow payments and can become even slower to settle down his accounts. He can extend his credit period. And overly aggressive collection policy may offend good customers who have failed to pay in time. So we can say that the objective of collection procedure and policies should be to speed up the slow paying customers and reduce the incidence of the bad debt losses. And this collection procedure is very much important for every firm. Next is, not only the collection procedure is important, but yes, the monitoring of the receivables should also be considered. Monitoring means, in order to control the level of the receivables, the firm should apply the regular monitoring, means the regular checks to monitor the receivables. So the financial managers should keep a watch on the credit worthiness of all the individual customers as well as on the total credit policy of the firm. Now, how they can keep a check? There are two common methods which are generally adopted by the firm. First is average collection period. By calculation of the average collection period, you can certainly come to know about the credit period, right? And the second technique which is generally available for monitoring the receivables is aging schedule. What is aging schedule? The quality of the receivables of a firm can be measured by looking at the age of the receivables. Means older the receivable, lower is the quality and greater the likelihood of a default. What happens in the aging schedule? The total outstanding receivables on a particular days, they are classified into different age groups. With percentage of the total receivables which fall in each group. Third is the lines of credit. Another control measure for receivables management is the line of credit, which means that maximum amount a particular customer may have as due to firm at any time. So different lines of credit may be allowed to different customers as long as the customer's unpaid balance remain within the maximum limit. The account may be routinely handled. So the lines of credit must be reviewed periodically for all the customers. Another control measure can be the accounting ratios. We know that accounting information is much more helping to control the receivables. There are several ratios to control the receivables, out of which the two main accounting ratios are receivables turnover ratio and average collection period. So both these ratios can be calculated on a continuous basis to monitor the receivables. So once the ratios calculated for these firms, they can be compared with the predefined standards for that industry or with the past ratios of the firm. After credit control, the next aspect which is important is the evaluation of the credit policies. So a firm may face a situation when it has several alternative credit policies before it and has to select only one such credit policy which is the most profitable or advantageous to the firm. So normally longer the credit period, higher will be the sales, and therefore larger would be the profits for the firm. So does it mean that the firm should go on increasing the credit period? It is definitely no in all the cases. Why? Because there is no doubt that increase in sales will increase the contribution. You know already the contribution is sales minus variable cost. So there is no doubt that increase in sales will increase the contribution. It is true. But simultaneously the firm will face the risk of increase in other cost as well. And these costs can be like increase in the investment in the debtors, increase in the bad debts which can create a bad debt losses to the firm, and other such cost or the other expenses which the firm has to bear. So we can overall say that on one hand the firm has benefits in the form of higher profits by increasing the credit period, whereas on the other hand the firm has to bear some additional cost. So, at the time of evaluation of different proposals of credit policies, what is required is to compare the cost and benefits which are associated with the credit policy, means trying to maintain the trade off between the cost and benefits of receivables. The firm should select that proposal which is expected to give highest profit. Highest profit means benefits more, cost less, right? So this comparison of cost and benefits needs to be attempted by every firm if it wants to maintain the trade off between the benefits and cost of the receivables. So this was all about your receivables management.